Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into your new Jackrabbit Illustrated B-Team spin-off show.
Scared money don't make money.
That's right, folks. Scared money don't make money. The spin-off show from the B-Team with Ben and Brendan making their picks against the spread just like old times, with the addition of Alex Kenkel and his computer model that is featured weekly on JackrabbitIllustrated.com. As usual, the B-Team and all Jackrabbit Illustrated podcasts are live on the Jackrabbit Illustrated Facebook and Twitter pages, along with being live on the FCS Fans Nation YouTube channel. Also, if you don't catch us live, be sure to tune in on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or any major podcast outlet in between. As always, the B-Team is brought to you by our title sponsor, Kubota Dealers of South Dakota. If you need a tractor, utility vehicle, construction equipment, zero-turn motors, parts, service, and more, there's always a Kubota dealer near you with 8 locations across the great state of South Dakota. Stop in today and get yourself into some orange equipment. And we would also like to thank our segment sponsor, Cubby's Sports Bar and Grill in downtown Brookings. If the Jacks are out of town, you need a place to watch them. Head on down, get some Chislic cheese curds, beer, and burgers. And now, without further ado, scared money don't make money. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Jackrabbit Illustrated. Thank you so much for joining us wherever you may be joining us from, podcast or live, or even after the show on the video platforms that we use of Jackrabbit Illustrated Facebook, Jackrabbit Illustrated Twitter, and of course, the FCS Fans Nation YouTube, the FFN as we lovingly call it. Welcome in. Thank you for joining us for Scared Money Don't Make Money. We have our first guest, second non-main member of the show, because Rev stood in for me, and I don't count that as a guest. He was more of a replacement. So you're the first actual guest on here, the unbiased Bison admin, who, as always, was generous enough to save his predictions from the Big Boy Show for coming on with us, and we always appreciate it. Thank you for joining us, Matt. It's great to have you on here, man.
No, I appreciate it, dude. I was looking forward to this for a while. You know, I knew this game would be here about like 8 weeks ago. I figured like this was going to be a matchup we might see. And I just wanted to say how honored I am. Like, seriously, when you think about this, zoom out a little bit. Like, you're like us, you know, with the FCS Fans Nation thing, the season, Frisco will be done and we'll do a finale show, right? So for you guys to invite me on your last show where the Jacks are playing before the finale is such an honor.
It is.
It's just such an honor that you would do that. It just means a lot to me. By the way, I thought of that all day. I was just
I could, you know, right I can there. The longtime watchers and listeners of us, I think they could tell just when you came on screen how much more this game means this time, because this isn't the toned down Matt Fraase, you know, pretty neutral NDSU shirt. No, baby, he is fully decked out in the green and yellow. We got our second comment was Daniel Bellafor, if I pronounce that right, with a horns up. So we got NDSU fans in here. I am getting the good old fashioned marker matchup anxiety built up, and I hadn't had that for a couple of them. Like even this last one, it wasn't quite there. It is there now. It has that indescribable feeling of a huge matchup between these two teams. So totally get it, and I love that you're all in for this week and spicy.
Yeah, win or lose, this I've said it for years. There is nothing better to me personally, and you felt this in Brookings, I guarantee it, is the coin flip happens, the ESPN person is leaving the field in a semifinal matchup, and the crowd is just rising as everyone's standing, the music's booming, and we're about to kick off a semifinal FCS matchup. I like it more than Frisco. It just feels different. So this is it, baby. This is fun. This is going to be great.
It's that home atmosphere, man. There's goobers out there whining and saying that semifinals should be neutral site games, which is just, I mean, you got a really good crack dealer to be spouting off crazy shit like that, if you ask me, because this is all there. Yeah, This is college football. This is the pinnacle of college football. A home game on campus, packed out atmosphere. I think there's going to be. This game will probably have more blue in it, I think, than we've ever seen. I don't know about you, Ben or Alex, but I've seen a lot more. I've had more people reach out to me. I've had more people reach out to me about rides, and I have tickets. Do you want to go? Like crazy this week that I haven't seen in a long time. Jordan says a third blue. That's a stretch.
Yeah, that's not happening.
The whole hold on, buddy. That's a lot. That's too far. That's way too far. I'd be 10%, maybe. I'd be pretty happy with that.
You gotta remember, we didn't have our section quite full at the marker. I bet for this time our section is full and we have a little overflow. That's what I'm saying.
By the way, Jordan is on the FCS Gold stuff and he asks phenomenal questions. So I gotta give him a shout out. He's awesome.
He does.
Every week.
He's a good guy. Jordan's a good dude.
I think maybe 1,000 in blue. I don't maybe. But I mean, they'll be there. They'll be loud. Is it actually sold out now?
There were 2 tickets left. And Bison fans are tweeting about it. And maybe I'll have to pull the trigger. Someone needs to buy them and then just give them away.
Great.
There's 2 in the corner end zone. They're
That's so funny.
Second from the top. It's like, come on, we got to get those gone.
Well, you know what I did? I wasn't planning on going to this game, and now I am. Because that's happened the last 3 previous meetings. I've said, I'm not going. And then something comes up that I'm like, all right, I got to go now. Haven't been, living there for long enough, some friends up there like, oh, hey, that you haven't seen in a while. And it's like, all right, we've seen all of them pretty recently. We're okay. We're not going to go. We'll chill at home, have a watch party at the house. It'll be a good time. It's because it's a lot driving up with the baby and everything. And she will not be in the game. I'll be in the game, but the baby will not be in the. That's a little bit much for a 9-month-old. But
did you purchase one of the tickets where you can run out with the team?
I was so tempted. They left it open to anybody.
I know,
and I was really close to. I was gonna maybe get a yellow tearaway jumpsuit, and wear it over it, so they'd let me start running out, and then I could rip it off dramatically, and then run out with the team.
Times are tough. Need that NIL money.
Gotta get it somewhere.
I was surprised they opened it up. It seems like it's asking for trouble, but
it does. I don't know.
Even in this rivalry, even having it in behind your team makers or Jackrabbit Club is dangerous, because I know fans both ways that have memberships to the opposing team's club so they could get tickets to this game. Just to get access to this game. That is a very, very real thing. I'm pretty sure the 2 seats next to us are season tickets in Brookings that an NDSU fan has. Because it's always somebody different, unless it's the marker game, then it's an NDSU couple there.
Do you think you'll be able to keep your voice this time when you go to Fargo?
God damn it. I hope so.
Matt, did you hear Brendan's voice when he was up there last time?
I did not. Unfortunately, I hit you, Ben, and then kind of things got caught up and I missed you. Did you go as Hort? You lose the voice like Matt Ends or what?
Yes, that's pretty good.
It was like before the game started, though.
Yeah,
it was already going hoarse.
I went to Taco King's house, and we had some whiskeys, and then as I'm leaving, or then I went to another friend's house, my old neighbor up there, Alex Vosich, and we went and hung out with him, and 10 minutes before I leave his house, all of a sudden my voice starts going like this. And Ben got a video of it that we probably can't show because I said a lot of inappropriate shit. He sounded like a cartoon character. I was
Yeah, like Reese said, it was much better when he couldn't speak. But yeah, he was like, hey guys, I'm ready for the game. So that is no joke how he sounded. And he couldn't do anything about it.
Sunday morning, Brendan and I were at the same hotel and didn't even know it. We're both loading up our trucks, and he was sign language to talk to me in the hotel parking lot the next morning. That's how bad it was.
It was awful, and I don't know where it came from. It just hit me like a truck.
Jeepers.
But anyway, we should probably talk about this matchup. First, we will quickly. Do we need to talk about any sponsors first?
We haven't talked about any yet, have we?
Well, the intro covers all of them, but of course, we've got to thank our title sponsors, the Kubota Dealers of South Dakota. And then our show sponsors for Scared Money Don't Make Money is Cubby Sports Bar and Grill in downtown Brookings. If you can't make it to Fargo, head to Cubby's. That'll be your very, very best Jackrabbit viewing experience at the marker game.
Matt, have you been to Cubby's?
I haven't been to Cubby's. No, never been there. But
Next year,
I tell you what, your advertising is working very well because the food you post and the things you do, I'm like, there's one place when I finally get to Brookings for these games that I'm going to go to. It's definitely Cubby's.
We'll abduct you and drag you down there with us.
Thank you. We're gonna clip that and send it to Cubby's.
I know the job and family and stuff gets in the way, but next year we got a ticket for you if you come down as always, and we'll get you into Cubby's if you make it down next year for the marker.
I appreciate that. We're on the cusp in the Fraase. Alice and I had this last year. We talk about it. We're like, okay, the third and final kiddo, he'll be 4 next year. Is that it? Is that the opening where either you or me could leave for a weekend and like it's just easy? You know, we're so close now. So we'll see. I think next year we might have an opening. So be fun to book it.
Matt, with you and Allison and how you guys without having interacted with her a whole lot but knowing you and all the podcast stuff and everything, I get such dude dad vibes from you and her.
Well, if it hasn't broken yet, you get plenty of time with her in Frisco. She's coming down. She's gonna make the trip. Yep.
Oh, Ariel's gonna be so pissed that she's not going now.
Yeah, years of holding down the fort and being the best teammate I could ask for allowing me to go down to Frisco. We got some in-law help and some friend help, and me and the unbiased Bison bride. I guess I could coin that.
There you go.
Down. So she's actually an NDSU grad too. So
I bet we can find Ariel a ticket.
Yeah, Ariel. Yeah,
it's not the ticket; it's the plane ticket and everything else that we've already passed up on.
Just drive.
I already have a plane ticket.
You can get it. You can get a voucher.
Oh yeah, that's what I need. Fucking vouchers.
Anyway, all right. Quickly, we'll recap last week's games. They've been talked about a bunch. We'll just tell you who covered. NDSU covered 31-7. Montana State covered easy 52-19. USD covered 35-21, and SDSU covered 55-14. All favorites.
Talk about my Twitter mention Saturday, or wait for the USD preview.
We can wait for the
preview. We all went 3-1, including the model. Model had a bounce back, but the model has officially been eliminated from contention. I'm still a couple of games ahead of Brendan. The model's way behind now, and Alex is 7 games ahead of me. So Alex has simultaneously locked up first and last.
And at the beginning of the year, he goes, "Yeah, and I'll have both of mine. You know, I'll be on the line for the model and for myself."
What's the worst that can happen?
We're like, "Are you sure about that?" He's like, "Yeah, it's fine. All right, your funeral." And here he sits now, first and last. Just, it's a real shame.
Matt, do you have any good ideas for the punishment?
Our fantasy football group, and this was, of course, you guys saw the. This might be too extreme. One of the hack guys. That's literally our fantasy football punishment this year. It's IHOP 24 pancakes in IHOP, 1 pancake per hour. So
we floated that with Culver's being a sponsor and all.
Yep.
Fun fact about that. So I have a work fantasy league, and we've got a bunch of people in it, and there's a subset of us that do not everyone does the punishment. There's a subset of us that do the punishment. And the loser has to go on a date with a 5-foot teddy bear and take them to either Kraft or the Pheasant. Those are fancier restaurants in Brookings, Matt. Well, this year I lost, and it was the best record anyone has ever had by 5 games. And they've had to take the bear on the date. If you want to talk about bad luck, I finished 500. But everyone else did so well this year. That was still the worst of us that are in the group for the losing bet.
Nice.
The bear is consistent. This is a
it's the same bear.
That's sick. That's a cool punishment.
That's terrific.
Then it lives with you for the year. So I don't know how my 3-year-old's going to take that if I don't retain it next year. But
that's too good.
Just go buy one.
Right.
Kevin, White Claw is just as much of a beer as Southern Comfort is whiskey.
Well, okay.
So drink a real whiskey.
Okay. He's got you there, Kev. I was gonna say no, but yeah, he's not.
He made a point.
He's got points on that one. Yeah.
All right. Let's get into JIAI quick.
Brought to you by Blue Tide Car Wash. Next time you're in Brookings or Sioux Falls, see the folks at Blue Tide.
Do you
what?
It's beautiful.
This should be a punishment picture. This shouldn't be.
It's just a great picture.
This is an awful picture. There's people who thought that was AI'd, by the way.
Or Mitchell.
Ray Gronowski thought that was an AI'd photo, and I had to explain to my shame that was real. How off-putting that was to people.
What happens on the board show does not always stay on the board show.
It's on the internet forever.
First off, we had the old used car salesman saying deuces to Idaho.
Jeez.
Have to do him dirty like that.
Doing him used car salesman?
I fed AI a picture of him and said to base it off of that picture. So he can blame himself for that look.
Slick shoes in that photo, though.
What is that car? That looks like a European 70s car that didn't make it that I'd see show up on the Grand Tour.
Yeah,
it does have the Idaho Vandals colors though.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
Got that going for it. We had the Bison trampling the Bears.
I like that one. That's good.
I bet you do.
We had the little pups.
Oh my god!
Finally making it to the semifinals. I don't know why there's soccer balls in there, but and then we had the GOAT walking off the field, Mark Gronowski with his last game at SDSU.
Yeah,
undefeated at home, which is just awesome. Was Stick undefeated at home too?
No. Is that a setup? Because the Jackrabbits.
I couldn't remember if
Ben.
we beat him in
that had to have been Jake Winicky, the 19 game.
Yep.
Yeah.
He also lost. James Madison beat us in the playoffs during his reign, and
that's right.
I'd said to Alex before the show, Stick got Cam hate, man, and I was a Stick defender. People treated him like they did Cam a little bit, like, oh, he's no good, he'll never make it. If you're not undefeated, you're worthless at NDSU. So it's just a strange world. But now I know that Mark Gronowski thing, undefeated at home, is bonkers. That's insane to me. I don't even know how that happens.
Yeah, just the home record, and then it's been tweeted a bunch this week about just the dominance that SDSU's had in the playoffs the last 3 years is just kind of insane, honestly. The spreads that they've beat teams by in the playoffs, and we'll see if it continues this weekend. But before we talk about that game, let's go ahead and pick the Montana State USD game. Montana State is favored by 8 at home. Alex, do you have the model scratched out on a piece of paper?
I do have the model scratched out on a piece of paper. The model says Bobcats win by 8.13. So the piece of paper says Bobcats cover. If you don't listen to the show regularly, Matt, the model committed suicide last week. Shoot, can you say that?
It was so sad about losing. It broke.
It just shut down.
I tried to get it to load last week, and I was like spending so much time fighting it. I told these there's 7 games left. I spent more time fighting with it, trying to get it to work again than it would be just to hand calculate these games because I know the formulas and stuff I use. So
awesome.
Anyhow, should I go as I always do, or should we let our guests go first, or should we let our guests go last?
You go as you always do, and then we can let Matt go. You already said it anyways.
I said the model. I didn't say my pick.
What's yours?
Oh, your pick. Yeah.
So to circle back to my Twitter mentions, because I know there is a Yote fan who I'm somewhat friends with, who I'm mutuals with on Twitter, who shall remain nameless, who retweeted my tweet that I think turned my mentions into a dumpster fire. Yote fans, I don't know why this was controversial Saturday. If you give Montana State the ball 3 times, twice in the red zone Saturday, the game will not be close. Tommy Mellott is not going to throw 6 picks like Miles Hastings did. Right. That's not going to happen. If you turn the ball over 3 times, it will not be close. Now, actual prediction. Do I think USD is going to turn the ball over 3 times? No, probably not. I think this is really interesting because, USD has a really good run defense, as Sean Anderson said, Walmart, SDSU. But do you know what they have struggled with this year when it comes to rush defense?
Quarterback runs.
Running quarterbacks. SDSU, NDSU, Youngstown, all teams that have some good quarterback run game, all put up over 150 yards on the ground. I know Montana State's been saving them a lot all year. It's the semis. If Brett Vegan has to run 30 quarterback powers, Brett Vegan will run 30 quarterback powers. He will run Tommy Mellott 30 times for 5 yards per carry and get out of there and waltz down to Texas. I think that's going to be a big challenge for the Yote defense. Do I think they can do it? Absolutely. They have a good front 7. But I think just that Montana State offense and how they kind of run some of that, it's not even so much downhill power like you see truly with SDSU and NDSU. It's almost a triple option out of shotgun where they'll have a zone read and then Mellott can pull it and get on the edge, and all of a sudden the linebacker comes up, swing pass. And we saw it when we played them here last year. If they get 3rd and 3, it's a first down. I mean, it just is. You have to create negative plays. And the one thing that USD's defense is actually pretty bad at, surprisingly, generating negative plays. They are very pedestrian to borderline bad at generating tackles for loss. So with all that said, I think Aiden Bauman and Travis Tice and Charles Pierre and Carter Bell and JJ Galbraith et al., I think they'll be able to score some points. But I don't remember. You guys say it on the B team. Or was another show I watched earlier this week. You just can't go blow for blow with Montana State. And it's not that it's not that I don't think USD's defense isn't good enough to give them a chance. I just think Montana State's offense is that good where they're going to force USD to chase and they won't keep up. And I kind of like that 8-point spread. I would pick them probably 8-11 in this one. I just talked a bunch. You go, Mr. Fraase.
Well, I love the insight and someone who can break something down into those details. As Jamie Kyler famously said about me, it's fun to have guests like Brendan and others who can actually watch the games.
I wasn't going to go there, but
I tell you what, though, I'm gonna pull a 180. I'm going back to what I tweeted under Mr. Alex Kenkel about a week or 2 ago. I don't know what it was. I said, boy, it just feels like whoever's going to Montana State is going to be that classic semifinal blowout. And I said on our show, I actually predicted it to be kind of close, but I'm going to go away from that. Maybe I did it just for shock value. I think Montana State's going to pummel them. I think USD has had turnovers. I think that they jump over lines during field goals. I just haven't seen great discipline play. Okay, they look great against SDSU. Awesome. Our rival in Brookings. They beat NDSU, who, they had a big chip on their shoulder, and they barely, had to come back to win that one. So you're going to take a USD who this vaulted USD defense, and I saw them stop the run well against NDSU at home. This team that still gives up a ton of points to Tarleton and then gives up big points to UC Davis, a team that's never really been here before, is going to go to Brent Vegan's house in Bobcats Stadium against what honestly I'm starting to feel more as an NDSU and 4 SDSU fans really could be the best team this year in the FCS. I don't think that I think it's going to get ugly, and I'm going to pick it way over -8. and I'm going to adjust that prediction. I'll take Bobcats to, of course, cover, and I'll take them like 34-14, something like that, and it's not going to look good. So I'm gonna call the blowout. I'm gonna call the famous FCS semifinal blowout for the Bobcat game. Sorry, Yotes.
That's a good point that you make about it being the first time for USD, and then with it being your first time on the road, with what I think, to go off of what you said, Matt, I think is Montana State's best team they've had in this run.
It feels like SDSU going to James Madison. Sorry to bring up bad things. It feels like this team that is good. And you made that comp, Brennan Thumper. You said it. You said USD feels like SDSU when we were getting to these points, but we didn't have the depth in this thing to really close it or be with the big boys.
Yep.
That's what they look like and feel like to me. So,
yeah, I think I think they cover. I was going to go by 10. I think they'll score 10. They'll be by 10. If this game, USD needs this to be a low scoring game. I think they desperately need this to stay, like 21 to 17 sort of game. If they got to go blow for blow with them, I think they're in trouble. I think the amount of pressure that will put on them will cause Bowman to force some things and make mistakes. I go back to what I said about the game last week for him. You get 6 turnovers and you only win by what they won by. Excuse me. That's not good. It's a bad omen for the next week, in my opinion. It's just not a good omen going forwards, because if you get 6, and I said it before, if you're playing if they get 6 turnovers this week and only win by 14, that's not a good sign. And that's against what is very much arguably the best team in the country. You get 6 against anybody, you should win by 3 scores. And that's a bad omen going in there. I think part of their issue is they have such skilled defensive linemen. And I think we've seen this in the past with you get a skilled defensive line that can really get after it in the pass rush. They are not good at staying in their pass rush lanes against a running quarterback, because they're so good at getting to the quarterback. They're just trying to get around the lineman in front of them. They're not the type of guy who's willing to try to bull rush through and maybe not get the pressure, but it keeps him in the pocket so that he has a harder time. And I think that's going to be their downfall. I think Malott is going to kill them on some 3rd and longs. And the other thing I went with, off of what Alex said, with how they struggle with generating negative plays, you have to generate negative plays against Montana State. Like Alex said, you get to 3rd and 3, with that offense, it's over. They're going to convert almost all the time. So I'm picking Montana State to cover in this one.
I think that that USD has a chance to keep this close because of their defense. I think that they do have a good defense, and I think that if they play this right, they will try to run the ball and shorten the game, because they can run the ball, and I think they can have success in that against Montana State, and they will try to keep the ball out of Tommy Malott's hands as much as possible. That's going to be their best shot. They need to create a turnover or 2 from Tommy Malott. Having said that, I still am going to take Montana State to cover. I think that 10 to 14 point win is probably most likely, but I can see a way that USD covers here. I can see them do it.
I can see a way where they win.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not impossible. This isn't this isn't Incarnate Word and Brookings or anything like that. But so is this USD is a very good team. I just think it's going to be a tough spot.
I'll eat my words if it goes the other way, but I think this is the wake-up call for whatever Dakota team survives the Dome. I think at 2:30, one of us is going to feel sad, somebody's going to feel happy, and we're going to watch that game, and then whoever's won is going to go, okay, happy, we're going. But man,
lock in.
we just played I just saw a USD team that played either beat the Bison close or really came close to beating us in Brookings, and they just got shellacked by a Montana State team. And I go to Jamie and Kyler on our show. They have been pumping that Montana State is a lot better than people think, and I know that's for a different show, a different time, but boy, it's going to be a fun matchup no matter which one they see, because I do think they will win. So,
well, we got a little time because Ben hates when we go under an hour.
Yeah, we can't ruin that for him.
I think Montana State's offense is phenomenal. I think this is probably going to be one of the biggest tests their defense has had so far. But I think, as I kind of talked about my prediction, between the pressure their own offense will generate to maybe make USD chase a little bit, and I do think they are pretty good themselves. They haven't faced an offensive team with this talent, but I do think they are talented in their own regard.
Well, if we got to make it an hour, then I'll give you this fun one. This has been the debate between us. Is this, this is probably the only time to talk about it, because it won't matter. One of our teams is going to lose here on Saturday.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, whoever faces off against Montana State, Kyler has made it very clear. He thinks the offensive struggles are not completely cured for SDSU, and that makes for Montana State a better matchup for Montana State to play SDSU. Taco King and I are like, we think Montana State would be better off playing NDSU because you got a weaker run defense, a young secondary, and you might see more of a 50-50 shootout offensive style of game because SDSU's run defense is so good. So
yeah,
what is better for Montana State, if we can interject it for a minute or two? This is the real question here.
I think I agree with you and Brian. I think, maybe our offense does get a little one-dimensional at times. But I think in that scenario, and I think this weekend we'll preview our predictions a little here, I think Mark will be locked in. And I think Tommy Mellott has played well, so I don't want to take that away from him at all. I think he has a real case to win the Peyton, even though if I had a vote, it would be Camp Miller. But I think that is still a recipe to beat Montana State, even if they are better at passing ball than they have been, is to make them one-dimensional. And I think the Jacks can do that better than the Bison can.
100%.
Oh, no doubt. There's no doubt about that defensively. But
yeah, I trust the Jacks defense to shut down the run enough that they make Tommy Mellott prove it with his arm. And I think that our secondary is able to do enough to prevent them from scoring enough points to keep up. So, yeah, I think that Montana State would much rather have NDSU win, in my opinion.
Yeah, I look at it like this. If I'm Montana State, my defense is pretty good. Like, they still have a good defense. People kind of gloss that over because their offense is so good. But I'm pretty confident that even though Cam Miller has had a hell of a year, I'm pretty confident that they'll be able to slow him down a couple times. So that leaves me with the option. And so say SDSU's offense isn't quite as good, but they have the defense that is capable of slowing that offense down. And not saying they're going to hold them to 10. I'm not being outlandish here, but in that matchup, I would prefer, if I was Montana State, to face the team that struggled with the run defense, because I know we've seen it with Montana State. If you can't stop the run, you can't outscore them. You just can't. No, it's too much pressure on your offense. So I think that SDSU matches up best with them. One interesting thing I did want to point out, this is just for Kyler. No, but for all the to do, and I was going to bring this up when we were talking about the upcoming game here, but I'm going to bring it up now. I was kind of shocked when this was tweeted out. Yardage, the stats between Cam Miller and Mark Gronowski are so much closer than I would have thought they would be. I mean, so much closer, because Cam Miller this year, right? We're all pretty sure he's winning the Walter Payton. Unbelievable. And I'm not saying he hasn't. I agree with all these things I'm saying. Unbelievable season, huge moments, has had big games against better defenses. All that is true. But with all the struggles and the talk about how bad and broken, we were part of it. We said after, God, what was it? The
SLU game.
I don't know if it was the SLU game or the
Or
USD
Augie.
game. We said that the passing game's broken. Like, it was broken. Like, to have that feeling that the passing game is broken, and then comparing the stats of the quarterback from the offense, you said the passing game is broken, and then the guy who's going to win the Walter Payton Award and is the best player in the FCS this year, I would have expected damn near 1,000 yards passing, probably 10 extra touchdowns. Mark would have 7 more interceptions. But when you go through this, Cam has 2,873 yards. Mark has 2,515 yards. Cam has 28 touchdowns. Mark has 22. Cam has 4 interceptions. Mark has 7. So almost double. That's where a lot of it comes in, right? And then Cam has 417 yards rushing. Mark has 330, and they both have 9 rushing touchdowns. So I'm not saying Mark's season is the same as Cam's. I'm saying it's a lot closer than you would think. Now, granted, there's a lot more that goes into this than stats, right? Like, Cam had the drive to win the game in the marker game. He's had huge moments all season long, and I don't think it's arguable that Cam has had a better year. But that stat surprised me that it was only 300-yard difference in passing and 3 more interceptions, and he's, the 6 touchdowns is the biggest one. But I was really surprised that any of that was that close.
Honestly, I'm surprised that Mark Gronowski and Cam Miller are able to, if Cam Miller gets it, and it's what we've been talking about. The Rev is big on it as well. It's just, wow, did we switch from high statistical Walter Payton winners to more of a most valuable player feel, especially with Mark Gronowski? Not fair to put that on Trey Lance. Trey Lance's stats plus his performance was undoubtedly Walter Payton-ish. But you look at Cooper Kupp stats, you look at Jeremiah Briscoe stats, you look at stuff like that, and we kind of talked about on our show of maybe there's you're not going to give it to Walter Payton, but boy, it'd be nice to have Offensive Player of the Year and then Most Valuable Player, because you could give that to Mark Gronowski's and Cam Miller's, but it's an interesting balance of what that award is now, where Easton Stick never had a shot versus a 50-touchdown Sam Houston quarterback. Or who is the great USD QB who got shafted?
Strebler.
Yeah, absolutely. And he had like 40 touchdowns and he lost.
Right.
It was insane. So,
well, when you guys asked that question, what popped in I was driving at like 2 a.m. listening to that show back from Minneapolis from a job. And what popped into my head is, I think the best solution would be you keep your current awards, but then go the NHL route, where you have the award for the most passing yards, most passing touchdowns, and then you have the award for most receiving touchdowns, award for most rushing touchdowns, and those are rewards, and name them after whoever the hell you want. The Cooper Kupp yardage, Cooper Kupp award is for most receptions or yardage, whatever the hell you want to pick a statistic for him. The Jeremiah Briscoe
0 points from a receiver in a fantasy playoff game. It's a Cooper Kupp award.
Oh my God, that was me too. You too? I was so mad. That killed me.
Not over.
Anyways, as much as everybody wants to hear about our fantasy teams.
Hey, I got a good segue if we're going NDSU, SDSU. So you talked about the passing game and the fix and stuff. I was appreciative to come on with the B team before the marker game, and I said, what is up with the offense of where you guys you apparently do these 50-yard runs, which was the way that SDSU scored in that game, besides the review that should have happened. Beyond that, though, just the last 4, Mark had that great game against UND. I have heard of the fix of the SDSU passing offense, but I have incarnate word. I've got 3 touchdowns, impressive, but 7 for 16.
Yeah.
And then I got 12 for 16 against Montana. Missouri State, I got 14 for 31 for 168 yards, no passing touchdowns. And then the Salukis, 11 for 17, 185 yards. So, I take a 4-game stretch there, some good solid touchdowns. Of course, it's a Bison South Dakota State quarterback. They don't need to throw more than 15, 16 times. I'm not downplaying that. But the statistics don't scream elite. Like, this is the fix. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like Tommy Millard, how he's just popping right now.
Yeah.
What's your take there? Maybe into the game picks, I guess.
So last week specifically, to start there, he was really more for 7-11 or 7 of 11 or 7 of 12, because not to question our coaches too much because they've done a great job this year, but we had a series right before the end of half where we threw 3 straight slot fades and none of them were open. And I don't know why he did that. And then he just run the ball. At worst case, it's an easier field goal. We were all screaming it in our group chat to each other, our frozen fingers. But then the other one was a pick on an RPO where Wildy stopped his route. And Mark has taken it on the chin with some of the picks and miscommunications with the young guys all year. That was the first time all year I saw him get visibly upset. He ran over and grabbed Griffin and was like, dude, you cannot do that.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I said go ahead first. You have to
go. Yeah, I mean, I think that hitting on some big plays has kind of masked some of the inefficiencies at time of the passing game. I think that all of us have said that we're a little too reliant on the big play. And I think we're still that way in the passing game. I mean, it works when we're running the ball well and teams have to suck up on that, and we can hit them with big play action gashers. If a team forces us to keep it underneath and complete a bunch, I think he's capable of doing that too. But I think it's a little bit in the nature of the type of passes we've been throwing have been a little more deep balls than the underneath routes where you're getting a bunch of completions. And so I don't know if that's on purpose or, because early in the year we saw a lot more underneath stuff. Towards the back half of the year, we've seen a lot more deep stuff. So I think that's
God, we were screaming to stretch the field.
Oh yeah.
Screaming in our group chat. God, stretch the field. For me personally, when I watch Mark, since his freshman year, you can watch Mark throw in a game and you almost immediately go, oh, Mark's in his bag today, or Mark's not in his bag today. I can go back to stretches in his freshman year where it felt like that deep post that he is so good at hitting, to whether it's the Yankees or now Griffin Wildy, where all of a sudden he just was in a funk and missed it, and he was missing it. It's like he was overthrowing it, and then it's like, oh, he's off. And honestly, since the USD game, I saw a difference personally in him. Are his stats going to jump off the page at you? Absolutely not. No, they're not. His stats right now, especially if you go game by game, are Cam Miller last year.
Yeah,
that everybody was making fun of.
Right?
That's what it is. But you can just see with him. It seems more obvious to me. Maybe it's because we watch him all the time, probably, that it's like, oh, Mark's on, Mark's okay. And I do think, to Ben's point, it almost looks like we're running some of our old offense passing game wise that we used to be. Now, I've been saying for the last couple weeks, yes, the pass game looks a lot better. However, who have we been doing it against? We got to see when the rubber hits the road here, and that's what this week's going to be.
You got to take your shots.
Yeah.
Crumbly and the young redshirt fresh sophomore mixture that is the Bison safety play right now. Boy, did you see it twice against USD. Boy, did you see it on a deep play with Tarleton. You saw it with Mercer. And yes, in scope, the Bison held Mercer to whatever points and that. But the opportunities for deep balls, I would just be shocked if the Jacks leave this game without 2 big passing plays that are 30-plus yards. It'll be extremely impressive by the pressure of the defensive line by NDSU and the elevated secondary play, I guess, in the moment, for the Jacks to not take advantage of that. I would be very frustrated to see the Jacks not go for opportunities because these kids are young. I don't even blame them. They're just young, and they're learning. They're trying to understand the game. And being a safety or corner in high school is not the same as an FCS semifinal game. So,
No.
I mean,
everywhere.
I think we all realize how tight both teams played that first game. They were not going to make a mistake. They were going to protect the ball. They were going to play defense, and they were going to try to be the one that had the ball at the end of the game. And I think that we can all agree that I think both teams will play a little more loose. I think we'll see both teams open up the playbook a little more, try to get downfield a little more. And I'm interested to see, you talk about the secondary. I'm interested to see how much NDSU sells out to stop Griffin Wilde, because he's just been on a tear lately. And, sometimes it's easier said than done, but I would be really surprised to not see them bracket him on every play, and do not let him get deep on you. And so it'll be real interesting to see if he can find success, if they can get him the ball enough in space and let him do what he does.
Ben, I like that you bring that up, and I see Jordan's question here about the safety help. What is you just not done to Mark Gronowski? Even in this last border matchup, they've never made him uncomfortable. I don't think it's ever happened. I don't even think he was really uncomfortable in our last matchup.
He was. That was the most he's looked uncomfortable in any game I've watched him.
And I think that's a result of maybe some play calling, but who he's passing to and where you guys were at with the passing game there. Wilde was starting, obviously, right from the beginning to be the guy, right? And I don't mean to be insulting to your other wideouts. You obviously have some great up-and-coming tight ends, but Wilde is the guy.
Oh, 100%.
And so if you can't get to Mark Gronowski on a freakish offensive line that SDSU has, because we try, we send the blitz, your guys' hogs just stop those Bison defenders. We may be getting some pressure, but it's so hard to get a sack. We didn't have one sack in that game. Mm-hmm. You got to take away his comfort zone, which is that wideout, and make him go to the second or third option. And I think that has to be part of the game plan. If you can't get consistent sacks, if you can't get one sack in a game, take away the target. That'd be my strategy personally.
Yeah, and we talked about a little bit on the B team about this, but NDSU did a great job of having a consistent rush on the edges, and Mark, for some reason, kept trying to escape outside the pocket, and he would escape right into pressure, and then he would get pressured as he was trying to throw on the edge, and I think that's the pressure that NDSU was able to create is making sure that he wasn't able to get loose on the edge and throw an open pass that way. Mm-hmm. I think we'll see that completely different this game. I think we'll see him stay in the pocket. We've seen that since the NDSU game. You could tell that he watched that film and he said, I need to stay in the pocket more, because he has. Ever since then, he's been way more of a pocket passer than he really ever has been, honestly. So he's developed that part of his game, even in his later years here. And so I think NDSU is going to have to create pressure up the middle in order to get to him. And that's something that they didn't really do last time, but for some reason I think he had little happy feet from a little pressure early, and I think he'll make that adjustment.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see what they tweak, honestly.
Yeah.
Both teams.
I want to tie what Ben said, what Brendan said earlier together. USD game, you go back to that, Mark's stat line from that game, 20 for 24, 163 yards, no touchdowns, no picks. And on the board show, Brendan and Zach were talking about how awesome of a game Mark had. And Kevin, who gives people a lot of gruff for, you didn't actually watch the game, was saying, 20 for 24 for 169 yards. How could that have been that good of a game? But if you watch that game, he was taking what the defense was giving him. USD said, we're not getting burned over the top. And to their credit, apart from one deep crossing route by Davin Stoffel, they didn't. But those 4 incompletions were all throwaways. I'm thinking and hoping we get that type of game out of Mark. And it doesn't have to be flashy. If he stands in the pocket, trusts the line, maybe eats a few hits, but is willing to just, okay, we're not going to let Griffin Wilde go deep. Okay, let's hit Lofton Ogroski on a slant. Let's hit Davin Stoffel on a stick route. Let's hit Graham Goring on a speed out. And if we take those, it might not be flashy, but it will keep us balanced enough where we're not seeing what we saw in the second half of the marker where we got a 9-man box. Good luck, Amar Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I like what you said, and Garrett Meyer said it earlier in comments 20 minutes ago. He was like, Mark tends to throw this or do that, where he's not like check down Cam. Well, Tom Brady won a lot of Super Bowls being
Right.
check down Tom Brady, because you just take what the defense gives you. And I honestly really I always thought that of SDSU the last 3 years with Gronowski. He's like a surgeon. I'm like, oh, there's 6 yards. Oh, there's 8 yards. And that just did not feel this way when there was the marker matchup. It was, he could easily dissect and take what he gets. You don't got to be a superhero here. You just have to. That's how you beat NDSU and SDSU. You're just like, wait, it's 3rd and 2, first down. Crap. You have to force those things. And it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, honestly.
Well, one thing that, we've talked about, but I haven't heard a lot, and we've only brought it up maybe once or twice. Mark, I think, deserves a huge amount of credit because I think, Alex, you just brought it up when we were talking, or Ben, one of you two. I've forgotten already because I have the brain of a hamster. But huge props to Mark for just wearing everything. It was Alex talking about the Wildy stop on that RPO. Huge props for Mark for just, because you're Mark Gronowski, you are the returning Walter Payton Award winner. He caught a lot of shit early this year. Not necessarily like, oh, he's bad, he's this, he's that, but a lot of what's going on with the passing game. A lot of questions all the time, everywhere from everyone. When the reality was, you've got a brand new offensive coordinator, and he's had the same OC his entire career. All of his go-to weapons are gone, and they're replaced with new young guys. And I've watched enough Green Bay Packers football to watch Aaron frickin' Rodgers struggle for 10, 12 games with that exact situation before things started to click. Except Aaron Rodgers would rip the heads off of these new guys and never trust them after they dropped the ball, and was just the dick that he is.
And acted like an absolute child on the sideline.
Yeah. Huge props to Mark's maturity going through that, because the pressure he had to be feeling at that time. Through the through the marker game and all that, the pressure on him, because he's the face of the offense now, right? Especially at that time of the year, for him to take all that pressure and just not dump it on the rest of the teammates and take it with a plum and figure out how to get it going and hold everything together while it went through. I don't think he gets enough credit for that from our fan base. I'm not saying nationally he needs that credit, but I do think we need to recognize part of why the offense is clicking so well is, okay, now Mark's used to the new scheme. Oh, now these receivers are starting to figure out where they need to be because they're still young guys, and all that stuff. When the play breaks down, all right, what do I got to do? All sorts of little things that tweaks as the season goes along, and that why this team's gotten better and better and better. And I'm very curious in this game. I'm curious what you think, Matt. Do you think that these teams, probably more NDSU than SDSU, but I think there's potential for both of these teams trying to loosen the defense up with the pass immediately to try to get some room to try to run, especially from the NDSU side. You've got Cam Miller. Why wouldn't you do that after how the run game went, like against Mercer and in the last marker game? I feel like that'd be something they should consider. I wouldn't be surprised if they take a shot right out the gate with Cam to try to come out with a big blow and get the crowd up and going.
No, I do think they're going to utilize that pass game a lot more, and I don't think it can be undersold what the Jake Rock injury did to the offensive line. If you didn't see it against Mercer and all that, it was very clear. Cam was scrambling a lot. The pass protection wasn't terrible. He had time. Credit to Mercer's secondary. They held those receivers really well in terms of not letting guys get open. But yeah, the offensive line is a little patched up right now. It's one of the main reasons people are not feeling good about NDSU winning this game. Combine that with our Jerry Rice Award-winning running back with a toe injury, who's kind of just fighting through it. And they've got guys who can get in there and can contribute. But it's kind of a weird perfect storm of things don't look good for NDSU. And on a neutral field, I don't know how many people would pick them, because you've got a young secondary that's continuing to struggle and give up those big plays. You now have an offensive line that's a little bit of patchwork. Jake Rock was a big, big loss with that. Combine that with, Cam Miller being a little bit more uncomfortable in the pocket. You're talking like 3 interceptions. USD all the way to this. He's been throwing picks. He broke the record, but it hasn't been pretty the last couple games. Everything's kind of trending in this weird way. Will that tweak because it's SDSU, and they just show up and play their best ball? Right. Maybe. But it would be certainly hypocritical for me to absolutely dog walk publicly to steal Thumper's thing, to dog walk USD publicly because they haven't looked good, and then just be like, well, NDSU will just be fine, though. They'll just be fine. So I think with those factors, I will say this. I wanted to get this in before the show ended, and I wanted to make it public because I've seen a lot of the revenge stuff a little bit, maybe not overblown, but of course, naturally, hey, we lost the marker, but we're going to get him where it counts. I have the counter to this, and I said it before the marker game. I think NDSU would have a worse shot to win this game if they had lost the marker. They needed that win. I think if they had lost the marker going into this game, they would still have the boogeyman right there. And it's like, we just cannot beat them. You could have sold yourself that like, oh no, we'll get them at the last chance and opportunity. I think that entire Bison team needed a victory over the great Mark Gronowski and the Rabbits to have the confidence for this matchup. So the revenge factor for sure, huge for SDSU, easy for them to play it. But I truly think that actually is a positive, that let's beat them twice. Let's get them twice. So, would it be in Brookings? Matt said, Chad. Yeah, absolutely. If it was in Brookings, yeah, that Vegas line might be a little bit bigger than 3.5.
Yeah.
Speaking of line, we better get to it. I do have to. Jamie asked for I don't usually do live requests, but it's Jamie, so I did. He asked for a JIA. I have Matt eating Taco Bell and drinking margaritas. That's what you get. It's Matt eating Taco Bell.
What is that?
It's Matt eating Taco Bell and drinking margaritas.
That's not bad at all.
I would pray for my nose to be that small and my facial hair to grow that well. Oh my gosh. It's close got the big bushy eyebrows down. That's not bad.
I fed it a picture of you, so it was close.
I do want to point one more thing out about this game really quick, Ben, because I know you see that clock approaching 60 and you are
just saying we haven't even said the spread yet.
As a beaver.
Ben, respect. I'm the same way on our show.
I just want to point out hugely not talked about in this game at all is how undisciplined SDSU was in that game. Because if you look at the final stats, SDSU outgained NDSU by 60 or some yards. They had 100 more rushing yards. And yes, I know 70 was on one play. They still had 225 rushing yards. That's nothing to sneeze at. Did they have a great yard per carry? No. But they heavily outrushed the Bison. And usually you do that in the marker game and outrush the other team, you win. But you know what when you don't win is when you're in the Fargo Dome, you have 10 penalties. 10. SDSU averages 5 a game. They had 80 plus yards in penalty yardage. I don't care how cool the touchdown is or how cool of a dance you have. I might come out of the bleachers if I see someone get a 15-yard penalty for doing some stupid TikTok dance. This is not the time.
Nope.
This is not the game. This is not the time. It was funny.
Chase Mason like that.
I didn't say his name. We've had other dances happen besides Chase.
No
Mason.
bow and arrows.
Yeah,
accidentally go across the face.
Yeah, and then you get the. You cannot give an extra 100 yards of penalties to the other team, especially on the road, and even more especially in the Fargo Dome. That killed so many drives in that game because the offense wasn't that off schedule all the time until they get a penalty. It was like a penalty every drive. And all of a sudden now they're looking at, 2nd and 15 or 2nd and 12 or 1st and 15 or 1st and 20 when the offense wasn't efficient, is was not efficient enough at the time to overcome that. And I think that is huge in this game because SDSU has only averaged 5 penalties a game. And to have 10 was brutal in that one. They cannot do that this time.
I think you took the words right out of my mouth, Brendan. I was going to go there too, not to make Ben's hives worse, but you look at
him itch.
You look at several specific situations there. The opening drive, Chase doesn't get set before we run the quarterback sneak. All of a sudden, it's a longer field goal. Dustman doinks it. There's 3 points. We had the drive where everyone was talking about the Goring catch, no catch. If you go back on that drive, they had 1st and 10 at the 25 and came away with 0 points because negative play, holding penalty, boom. All of a sudden, Seth said it while I'm talking about it. You're at field goal range. There's 3 points. You do that, and all of a sudden there's 6 more points. You pull your head out of your rear end on an extra point. There's a point. All of a sudden that Cam Miller drive, that was a phenomenal drive. Perfect drive. If you go down, you win the game. That Cam Miller drive, NDSU is still down 4 with 1:10 left after that drive.
If you don't, and
ifs and buts and everything. NDSU earned and won that game. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is the opportunity is there, but you can't make it easier on the other guy.
Yeah, because a lot of them are unforced penalties, or you could argue forced by the crowd or the moment and everything like that. But you can't. And I absolutely, Matt, NDSU won that game. They won it. They wanted it more. Everything in this game, man, cannot shoot yourself in the foot. Either team can't. But SDSU specifically, since they had 10, and it's not like they were iffy calls. It was 10. There weren't 10 like maybes. Like the vast majority of them at minimum were
ironically enough,
solid
the
calls.
only one I didn't love was the hold on the second to last drive. Honest to God. That was the only one I was like, I don't know about that. The rest of them, most of I officiate. I would have thrown that flag too.
Yeah, and unless it blows up on Saturday, Tim Paulsek's done a phenomenal job of bringing that Craig Bull, let's play clean style. It's been really good for NDSU for the most part throughout the season.
Oh, for sure. They've capitalized off that majorly.
All right, let's get to a pick. We've got SDSU favored by 3.5 on the road, which is saying that we're about a touchdown favorite on a neutral field. Alex, what does the model say about this one?
My piece of paper says Jacks by 1.14, so it will take the Jacks to win, but the Bison to cover. As myself, the one thing kind of to talk about off Ron's point that someone just put up, know who did not play last time? Tucker Large. I think having him back in the secondary, some of those plays where you had Rajah Nelson or Bryce Lance running down the seam in open windows, I think Tucker Large helps erase some of those. I'm not saying the Jacks win by a lot, but I like them by a little more than a field goal, so I will pick the Jacks to cover.
Brendan, what do you got?
I know a score's coming, right, Thumper?
Never a score. Never a score. I do think this will be higher scoring. I think the offenses are going to – there won't be – I think both coaches are going to understand that, and this is a game you've got to coach to win, not to not lose. And the last game up until like the last drive by both teams, really, where Mark got picked off and Cam drove it down for the touchdown, that was really the only drive it felt like they were offensively calling to win the game. This game, I think, will be very different when it comes to that. I think it'll be higher scoring. but I am going to take the Jacks to cover in this one. I think they will be more disciplined. I think the offensive line has gelled incredibly well throughout the course of the season, learning from those back-to-back games with USD and NDSU. They've all been in the Dome before. I do expect it to be louder than the Marker game was, but even then, I'm going to take the Jacks to cover. I think the ball's going to end up on Mark Gronowski's stick, and if you put a gun to my jackrabbit head, I'm gonna put my money on Mark Gronowski every time and go down with the ship if I have to. So that's what I'm gonna go with.
I'll pick, and then we'll let Matt close it out here. One of the things we haven't mentioned is how important Caleb Fransel is. He was a monster in the first matchup, and he tweaked his ankle in the quarterfinal game. He's on the depth chart. We're hoping that he's healthy and ready to go. But he is a huge key to this game because the one other thing that's different was Cam Miller wasn't fully healthy. Now he is. Will we see him, use his legs a little more? I fully expect Cam Miller to break for a long run in this one. At some point, he's too good. He's an amazing competitor, and he's going to go all out. But having said that, I think the Jacks do enough in this one to win by, I'll say 7 to 10 points. I think that the defense makes NDSU one-dimensional, and Cam Miller, I mean, he's very, very good, but he's going to have to play like damn near, I won't say perfect, but he's going to have to play really, really well if NDSU wants to win this one. And NDSU is going to have to create a turnover or two, I think. So I'll take SDSU. Close this out, Matt.
Man, wow. Always a fun honor to come onto this show and predict an SDSU and NDSU game, since we'll probably do it twice a year for the next 10 years with no Mountain West for anybody in sight. Remember Thumper, I took 2020, the spring game, and I said, well, it's in Fargo. So that was basically my reason why I took NDSU. I used no logic. And the next year I came on your show and I said, I will never, ever, I'll never stop reminding you of this. I'll never predict this game ever off of emotion ever again. And I've nailed it since then. I've crushed it. Besides the marker, I picked SDSU to win the marker this year. Yeah. And I was off. So that's my first L since the spring game. I fully came here expecting if they matched up in Frisco or a semifinal or anywhere in the playoffs, I expected NDSU's young secondary, like a 2015 squad, to grow. I expected that youthfulness and the talent and recruitment to elevate. The offensive line, if we were going to stay healthy, I expected that to continue to perform well and give Cam a lot of time. The other thing I really kind of expected was that, I mean this in no disrespect, that SDSU would have a normal season. I don't know what you feed those boys down there, but like, I know injuries happen, but dang, they're like all coming back. And I remember last year you guys dealt with very little true injuries. So
Matt Jacobs.
Yeah, you look across the board and I see an SDSU offensive line that's playing really good. I see an SDSU defense that's playing unbelievable. I don't think anybody in the FCS is better than them right now. I'm not sold your offensive flow has like drastically improved, but here's the thing. NDSU secondary is not performing well. And the offensive line last week looked rough against Mercer. I don't think NDSU is playing the better ball right now. I think the reason it's close is because we are in the Fargo Dome and it's kind of the heat of the moment. -3.5, though. I really hope it's SDSU doing something on a drive, and it's not in a great Cam Miller having to go down like in 2022 trying to get a field goal. I'm going to take the Jacks 20-17. I've been thinking 20-13 all week, but I'm going to tighten it up a little bit. 20-17, an absolute classic. So -3.5. It ends up on bad beats. People are pissed. But yeah, and I think that sets up Montana State SDSU. And I tell you what, I do not know who I'd pick in that matchup right now, but just don't think the Bison are playing good enough to be able to do it. And I will say this, refer to my tweet for any rabbits or anybody else about what I think about Cam Miller. Overcame being a backup twice, always doubted. I do not give a crap if he loses this game. I'll be with my 2 boys in the dome, and I'll be like, hey, no matter what life throws at you, you look at Cam Miller's career and you know you can overcome anything and be successful. So I'll sadly pick the Jacks, but I'm going to be there screaming and hoping it goes the other way.
Hey, you know what? Cam Miller has the most storybook Hallmark movie career ever of the guy who just keeps getting back. And honestly, he should be way more beloved by NDSU fans. I remember telling an NDSU fan who's a friend of mine before going into the Fargo Dome this last time, and he was like, Cam Miller, he's not that good. He's not that good. And I said, dude, he's good. He's very good. He's like, I just can't win the big one. I said, yeah, he can. I mean, he's got a national title, you know? Yeah. And then we came back and he goes, well, I guess you were right. Yeah, man. Like, that's the only win I got on me today. I'm going to take that one.
I love it. Seth, I did see Tanner's story. It was phenomenal. I didn't know that information. I will say one thing to you guys before I go. I always try to find ways to compliment you, but I will never forget that you gentlemen here and you Jackrabbit Illustrated guys, before the playoff seeding, the hordes of NDSU lost to USD. We are the 2 seed. They were coming down the mountain. Rabbits were everywhere. And I just saw Alex and Thumper and Ben, and they're just like, no, we're probably the 3. So I just hope the listeners and people who listen to you guys don't just think you pick the Jacks because they're so freaking good. You have so much knowledge and insight. It's really fun to see people who know ball. So it's fun. Is that a Diet Mountain Dew, Thumper? Like Coach Paul?
That's the whole full boat Mountain Dew.
Allison would be proud of you. She loves it.
I can't deal with diet. That's no good.
I'm with you.
All right. Well, Matt, as always, thank you for hopping on.
Thank you for the kind words.
Yeah, appreciate the kind words.
I'll probably see you guys most of you, no matter what. So looking forward to it.
Hopefully never go an NDSU game without having you on. So always a good time. Yeah, well, otherwise we'll see you in Frisco. And as Jim says, as we always say, go big, go blue.
Go Jacks.